The act of beatification of the Doctor of the Poor, Jose Gregorio Hernandez, was held in Venezuela. India's daily COVID-19 death toll surpassed 3,800 on Friday, marking a new grim record for the Asian nation. Palestinian main factions agreed to delay the upcoming elections amidst dispute with Israel over voting in East Jerusalem. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. The beatification ceremony of Venezuelan physician Jose Gregorio Hernandez was held under strict health measures according to religious authorities. Only 150 people attended the ceremony. At the same time, to avoid crowds, the beatification was held in the Church of the La Salle School. The religious activity, which was attended by the Apostolic Nuncio Aldo Giordano, was also presided over by the Vatican Secretary of State, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Venezuelan Cardinals Baltasar Porras, and the Emeritus of Caracas, Jorge Urosa Sabino. Also present at the ceremony were the bishops of Venezuela, as well as priests chosen from among congregations established in the state of Caracas. Alongside her relatives, the minor, Yaxuri Solorzano, who will have received the miracle of blessed Jose Gregorio Hernandez, attended to the Mass. As the act of beatification of Dr. Jose Gregorio Hernandez was held, let's take a look at his legacy and also the events that led to this ceremony.
Scientist, professor, and philanthropist of Catholic religious vocation and a secular Franciscan. He died on June 29, 1919, in the La Pastora parish of Caracas as a result of a car accident. In the year 1949, the Catholic Church in Venezuela began the process of beatification and canonization. In 1972, the Holy See recognized that Dr. Jose Gregorio lived a virtuous and exemplary life, granting him the title Servant of God, that the Church awards as part of the path to sainthood. After the process was initiated and the first cases were completed, the doctor was named Venerable by Pope John Paul II on January 16, 1986. In January 2019, Cardinal Baltasar Porras delivered to the Congregation for the Causes of Saints at the Vatican in Rome the file that began the revision of the miracle. The case was of a girl named Yaxuri Solorzano, who was healed after being victim of a bullet wound in the head, and that the Catholic Church verified for the beatification of Dr. Jose Gregorio Hernandez, resulting in the approval of the decree that recognizes the miracle attributed to the Venerable Doctor by Pope Francis last June 18. In his lifetime, Dr. Jose Gregorio Hernandez was an example of faith, charity, kindness, service, love for humankind, humility, charisma, respect, and solidarity. He is veneered in the idiosyncrasy of Venezuela as a messenger of life, peace, and faith in the face of illness. He is also recognized for his contributions to medicine, as a great teacher, and for his philanthropy. As for him, the most important thing was to assist the people and provide them with the necessary medical attention. It was decided that October 26, the date of the doctor's birth, will remain as the day of celebration within the Catholic religion for the Venezuelan saint.
Pope Francis spoke out this Thursday against any foreign intervention in Venezuela in a message sent on the occasion of the beatification of Dr. Jose Gregorio Hernandez. The Pope called on Venezuelans to work towards reconciliation and unity in the face of difficulties and maintain faith and hope in the future. Francis likewise expressed a wish to visit the country. Dr. Jose Gregorio Hernandez was known as the Doctor of the Poor in Venezuela and has long been venerated like a saint, with miracles and improvements to people's health attributed to him. Through his studies in Paris, Berlin, Madrid, and New York, he became a renowned bacteriologist.
Also know the faith and hope of the Venezuelan people. The beatification Dr. Hernandez is a special blessing for Venezuela, and It invites us to a greater solidarity with each other to produce among all the response of the common good so needed for the country to revive, to be reborn after the pandemic with a spirit of reconciliation.
In Mexico, a group of indigenous members of the Zapatista Army of National Liberation announced a symbolic act of invasion of Spain as a way to commemorate the 500th anniversary of Mexico's colonization by Spain. The commemoration includes the trip of several traditional boats known as cayucos, manned by members of the organization, that will take a trip similar to that made by the colonialist forces but from Mexico, bound for Spain. The crew, that is made up of 5 women, including a transgender woman and 2 men, plans to arrive in the capital city of Madrid on August 13th, after disembarking in the vicinity of the port of Vigo. In this regard, become people.
They decide to leave their families, their homes, their jobs, regardless of the consequences of their life, to fulfill their mission. They will travel to European lands and to other continents to plant the seeds of resistance and rebelliousness to protect life. We are originate from Mayan people, and to make it visible, we were never defeated, and we are still alive here despite that more than 5 centuries have passed.
This Friday in Nicaragua, celebrations will be held to commemorate Commander Tomás Borges' legacy on the 9th anniversary of his death. Borges was a co-founder of the Sandinista National Liberation Front in Nicaragua and was Interior Minister during one of the administrations of President Daniel Ortega. He was also a member of the Nicaraguan Parliament and National Congress and ambassador to Peru. Born in Matagalpa in 1930, at a very young age, Borges joined the resistance against the dictatorship of the Somoza family in Nicaragua. At the time of his death, Tomás Borges was 81 and continued staying active in politics as ambassador in Lima, Peru. In Guatemala, the Pacaya volcano, located 5 kilometers south of Guatemala's capital, is sending lava, raising fears it may spread to nearby communities. The eruption of Pacaya is releasing lava to the ground, as opposed to an explosive eruption with violent expulsions of smoke and ash. The volcano had ended last Friday a strong eruptive activity of almost 3 months that kept the country in suspense, especially by the lava that reached about 400 meters from the first inhabited houses of the villages of El Rodeo and the Patrocinio, nestled in the skirts of the volcano. And we'll take a short break now. Follow us in social media and join us in this. Welcome back to the South. Suppose humanitarian aid for Venezuela was used as means to exert pressure on President Nicolás Maduro to step down, recognized in a report by the Office of Inspector General of the U.S. Agency for International Development. The report refers to the alleged humanitarian aid that extreme sectors of the opposition, led by self-proclaimed President Juan Guaidó, used as an attempt to force their way into Venezuela from Colombia in 2019, in what formed part of a massive media show that sought to rally international pressure against the legitimate Venezuelan government. In the report, the agency questions whether the aid was actually a coup attempt rather than really helping Venezuelans. The report noticed that the aid did not enter Venezuela as was the supposed objective, but was distributed in Colombia or shipped to Somalia. As the title of the report recognizes, U.S. aid actually played a role in fraud in its supposed response to humanitarian needs in Venezuela. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro Moros ratified the commitment to the Homeland Plan drawn up through the year 2025, which contemplates reaching a total of 5 million homes delivered to the population.
In the 2025 Homeland Plan, we extended the commander's work when he founded the Grain Housing Mission. Venezuela set a goal that was the need for 3 million homes by then. We achieved the goal set by Commander Chavez. Within his goal of 3 million, we have set a new goal of 5 million by the year 2024. The Homeland Plan through 2025. Here is the plan of the Homeland, and we will fulfill it.
The Venezuelan president also recalled the role of Commander Hugo Chavez in the creation of this state housing policy.
Commander Hugo Chavez was the creator of the Venezuela Grain Housing Mission. For several years, he dreamed of a future public policy with a mission to build the housing the people needed, to make the mandate of the Constitution a reality.
In Cuba, since the sugar harvest season began in November, the Boris Luis Santa Coloma sugar mill in the small Cuban province of Mayabeque has been shut down intermittently due to a lack of fuel because of the United States blockade on the island. Cuban authorities have noted that criminal U.S. measures are dramatically affecting the country's sugar industry, threatening the possibility that it will fall short of the proposed target of 1.2 million tons this year.
Due to the deficit and situations that we have had, since we have not received the resources, we started to harvest this sugarcane field, and we must do it in 3 days or 72 hours. We started late because we were stopped for lack of fuel. Today, we are at standstill. The plant where we stockpile is at standstill.
Within the industry, as you can see, there is a big technological obsolescence that starts from the scale, the entire area of milling, the evaporation system, the boiler house, centrifuge, this part of the steam generation, and the electric plant too.
We had stopped producing approximately almost 700,000 tons of sugar from 2017 to last year, when we produced 1.2 million tons. Multiply that loss by current prices due to the deficit.
India's daily COVID-19 death toll surpassed 3,800 on Friday, marking a new grim record for the Asian nation. As of late April, India has reported for over 2,000 fatalities per day. In many Indian cities, the hospital bed occupancy rate is too high to cope with the new admissions of COVID-19 patients, and healthcare institutions are facing a severe shortages of oxygen and medical supplies. The Indian government announced it will open vaccination facilities to all adults from Saturday in an effort to curb infections. Authorities had previously limited shots to those aged over 45 and certain other groups. However, several states have warned that they do not have sufficient vaccine stocks, and the expanded rollout is threatened by administrative issues, confusion over prices, and technical glitches on the government's digital vaccine platform. The government of Ecuador reported that the recent restrictive measures to tackle the spread of the virus are working. These measures contrast with the opinions of the country's main medical associations. Denise Herrera brings us more information.
Remains on alert due to the new wave of COVID-19 infections. According to the authorities, the focused confinement program implemented in 16 provinces is beginning to show promising results.
There is already a reduction in the number of occupied beds with COVID, both in ICU and hospitalization. We have already noticed that there is an impact on the waiting lists and that we have lowered at least 30 percentage points from the previous baseline when we adopted the state of emergency.
Ecuador is also planning to celebrate the May 1st public holiday, where authorities have reiterated that the protocol and restriction enforced must be respected.
We make a patriotic call that on Friday there will be no activities because we cannot suspend a holiday as it is in the law, but we citizens must continue to take care of ourselves. The situation of the hospitals continues to be critical.
However, doctors do not feel the same way. Different medical associations in the country have been demanding measures that will really have an effect on the hospitals that are still collapsed. They even argue that these measures could have the opposite results.
We have criticized the measures of the Emergency Operations Center. We request a focused but total confinement. We believe that these partial measures may even be counterproductive.
Authorities also reported that 595,699 citizens have received the first dose of vaccination, and 220,476 have received the second dose, for a total of 816,175 people vaccinated in Ecuador. A plan that has been criticized for the long lines, disorganization and favoritism at the beginning of the plan, where priority was given to vaccinate family members and employees close to the government and not frontline personnel.
Residents of the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro reacted to news that the COVID-19 death toll in the country has surpassed 400,000. The green milestone comes as Brazil struggles to secure enough vaccines, and the Senate investigates whether President Jair Bolsonaro's government was criminally negligent in its handling of the health crisis.
It causes me a lot of problems because everything is expensive. I am unemployed, living with my grandmother. The pandemic has disrupted everything. Studies too. Schools have stopped. Thank God I finished my studies. Now, getting back to normal business is improving, but things of closing, opening, opening causes more damage than doing things directly.
In Bolivia, the Ministry of Health and Sports, in alliance with public universities, launched a pilot mass vaccination plan in the cities of La Paz and El Alto to immunize people aged over 60. President Luis Arce, as well as the Minister of Health and Sports, and the deans of the universities of La Paz and El Alto, as well as the country representative of the Pan American Health Organization, attended the launch of the program. President Arce announced the arrival of a new batch of vaccines to the country and also highlighted the importance of the pilot plan, since it will measure the country's response capacity and help improve the mass vaccination campaign in the immediate future. The pilot was carried out in more than 8 strategic vaccination points in facilities of the 2 universities, which received dozens of elderly people with or without underlying medical conditions. The pilot scheme will last 5 days, administering approximately 800 vaccine doses per day. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back from the south. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said the main factions have agreed to delay the first elections planned in 15 years, citing a dispute with Israel over voting in East Jerusalem.
Faced with this difficult situation, we decided to postpone the date of holding legislative election until the participation of Jerusalem and its people in this election is guaranteed. There will be no concession of Jerusalem and no concession on the right of our people in Jerusalem to exercise their democratic right.
A stampede broke out early Friday at a Jewish religious gathering attended by tens of thousands of people in northern Israel, leaving many injured, authorities said. Israeli media reported that at least 40 people were killed and published photos of rows of bodies. The incident happened late at night, and there were conflicting reports on whether a grandstand did fall. Tens of thousands of people had gathered at the foot of Mount Meron to celebrate Lag BaOmer, a Jewish holiday honoring Rabbi Shimon Bar Joashi, a 2nd century sage and mystic who was buried there. Despite military, economic, and political pressure from the United States and its allies, the presidential election process continues, according to schedule in Syria. The authorities have noted that they are sparing no effort to ensure the electoral process is successful and far removed from any foreign interference. Our correspondent, Hisham Wanos, brings us more details in the following report.
The deadline for the submission of applications for candidates to the general elections, which last 10 days, ended on Wednesday, April 28th, with 51 applicants, including 7 women and the current president Bashar al-Assad. According to the general electoral law of Syria, each candidate must obtain the support of 35 members of parliament for his or her candidacy to be valid.
I appreciate the efforts you have made, in accordance with the rule of the Constitution and the duties of the Assembly, to express your support. to your candidates for the presidential election of the Syrian Arab Republic, and that you have done so inspired by your conscience, and placing the patriotic interest above anything else. It is a new victory for Syria to hold these elections on the date scheduled under the Constitution, and we invite all our compatriots inside and outside Syria to exercise their right to vote and to ensure broad patriotic participation in these elections in defense of the unity, independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Syria.
The second phase of the process began this Thursday, April 29th, with the delivery to the Supreme Constitutional Court of the box that contains the votes of the members of parliament for the nominees. The judicial body will study all the applications to run for office and will rule on them within the established legal term of 5 days, after which hopefuls whose applications were rejected may appeal to the court and receive a response to their appeal within 6 days.
The Supreme Constitutional Court will study and legally examine the nomination files for the presidential elections, and once the legal study of the application is completed, in accordance with the constitutional and legal conditions, the court will announce the names of the candidates whose applications were accepted.
Syria has suffered a fierce war and is the victim of a major global conspiracy. But the Syrian people remain steadfast and offer no concessions regarding the sovereignty of their homeland and their national principles, and therefore they support these elections, which we hope will be successful and lead to the election of the appropriate presidential candidate.
The voting will take place on May 20th for the Syrians living abroad, and on the 26th of the same month for those living in the country, an election that the parliaments of friendly countries such as Venezuela, Cuba, Bolivia, Ecuador and Nicaragua were invited to follow closely and which, in defiance of attempts of Washington and its allies to obstruct it, the government and citizens of the country vowed to comply with in a sovereign manner and by virtue of the Syrian constitution approved in the referendum of 2011.
On Friday, Indonesia's military and families paid their last respects to the 53 submarine crew members who died after their vessel sank and broke apart in the depths of the island of Bali. Indonesia is planning to recover the submarine with the help of a Chinese Navy ship that's capable of lifting objects from 1,000 meters deep. According to the Indonesian Navy, the submarine sank on April 21st, a depth much deeper than its collapse depth of 200 meters, at which point water pressure will be greater than the hull could withstand. The president himself met the families of the crew members on Thursday and expressed his condolences. The Defense Ministry said the German-built submarine had been in service since 1981 and was carrying 49 crew members and 3 gunners as well as its commander. On Friday morning, the armed forces plane in charge of repatriating the bodies of the 2 journalists murdered in Burkina Faso arrived at the Torrejón de Ardoz air base in Madrid. Families and the Ministers of Foreign Affairs and Defense, Arantxa González and Margarita Robles, were waiting for them at their arrival. The Airbus A310, which left on Thursday from Madrid to Burkina Faso's capital to pick up the bodies of David Berrien and Roberto Fraile, was also carrying the body of the Irish citizen killed, the conservationist Rory Young, co-founder of the NGO Shengera Wildlife, dedicated to fight poaching.
They are the protagonists of the day, David and Roberto, who have done so much to give a voice to those who have none, who have done so much to shed light on the realities that surround us and that are sometimes invisible. We will do our utmost to cooperate with the Burkina Faso authorities to clarify and identify the perpetrators of these heinous acts. The fight against terrorism in these areas will not stop. We will be relentless.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.